be a bright, sunshiny day. So, welcome to you. Welcome to the Unity Church of Greater Rochester. So, come on in. Some of us have come in physically. Some of us have come in virtually. So I invite you to come into the presence of infinite love and wisdom. Come into this community where we affirm our God is love, our race is human, our faith is oneness. Our faith is wholeness as well. Our faith is in healing. Our faith is in abundant life. Our faith is in participating in the ongoing creation of the world, the universe, with God the good. Our faith is in a sense of positive purpose for our lives. So, where's your faith today? Is there a particular question you have, a particular issue that you're working on? I invite you to hold it in your heart right now. Perhaps turn it into a prayer request. Our prayer box is up here. So we're holding the prayers that have been contributed there. Those of you joining us virtually could submit prayer requests at unityrochester.org. There's a prayer request form there. We've come into the presence of God. And let us sit for a moment in that presence. Settle down into this oneness, into the goodness that surrounds us, and into that presence that is surely within us. I want to tell you a story. Once upon a time, that says something about the kind of story it is, doesn't it? That it's not necessarily factually true. But in the tradition of, say, Native American storytellers, it's like, I'm not sure that this is exactly the way it happened, but I know that it's true. Okay, so it was a dark and stormy night. Corny opening. But it was dark, it was stormy. And there was a group in a boat out on the lake at 3 o'clock in the morning, and the waves were big and it was dark and it was scary. Now, some of them were talking with each other. Some of them were asleep, probably. There was somebody at the tiller or at the wheel trying to guide their way. And it was not an easy trip. They were on their way. They were an advance team that was sent on their way to set up the next rally or workshop for their teacher, their master. And in the midst of this, one of them said, what's that? What's that out there? He saw something out on the water and said, it's a ghost. And the ones that were asleep woke up, and everybody had their attention, and they're starting to yell. And from out on the water, they heard, it's me. Don't be afraid. Chill out. Don't worry. It's me. And one of them on the boat said, well, if it's really you, have me come out there and join you out there on the water. And the voice, the presence out on the water said, go for it. In Matthew's version, he has Jesus saying, come. But that's what he meant. Go for it. That was Simon. He was impetuous. So he stepped out of the boat and started walking towards Jesus. And as he was walking, he started to think, hey, I'm walking on the water. There's wind. There's waves here. Look, my feet are getting wet, but I'm on the water. All of a sudden, he started sinking. And then he got frightened, even more disturbed. And he said, help! Lord, help me. And Jesus reached out, grabbed his hand, lifted him up, and said, don't be afraid. Now, I took some liberty with this next line. Matthew has Jesus saying, oh man of little faith, why did you doubt? You know, it's like, I think what he was really saying is, hey man, you have a little faith. Why did you doubt? You have some faith. You have enough faith. And they walked back to the boat, and they both got on the boat. Now, there was must have been quite a reaction on the boat whenever they got back. There's 3 versions of this story in the New Testament. The disciples are supposed to say, wow, Jesus, you're the man. You're the one. You are the Christ. They don't have them saying anything to Peter, to Simon. But he was walking on the water too. Maybe they said, we saw you sinking out there like a stone. Maybe that's why he got the nickname Stone. But anyway, they got back in the boat, and the waves calmed down, the wind calmed down, and their sailing was smooth to the other side of the lake. Interesting story. Probably not factual. Popular. Well known. There are lots of stories, there's lots of mythology within the world's spiritual tradition about levitation. You know, there were stories about other people walking on the water, floating in the air. And so the gospel writers wanted to somehow point at Jesus and say, he's as good as any of them, those others. There's a story from the Buddhist tradition about the Buddha arriving at a river, and there's a sadhu there, disciple of the Buddha who's been practicing. And the Buddha arrives there, and the disciple said, oh, your holiness, here, watch this. And he walks out across the river and comes back. Said, what do you think about that? And the Buddha said, it must have taken you a long time to learn how to do that. Oh yeah, I've been working on that for a long, long time. He said, it might have been better for you to focus on something that would make a difference in people's lives. Might be better, you could have just taken the ferry. It's a whole lot easier. But this tradition about some miraculous things about walking on water, or the contemporary equivalent that's kind of available for a lot of people is walking on hot coals, fire walking. You know, it's the same kind of thing, that if you're spiritual, you can do something that would defy nature. Well, I'm not so sure about that. But what I'm sure of is that we can get some meaning for ourselves from this story, because stories have a way of opening us, of taking us to a sense of depth. For a while now, I've been planning to start a Bible study. I figured I'd wait until we could get back together in person. Well, who knows when that's going to be? And so I'm starting an online Bible study, well, a virtual Bible study on Zoom Tuesday nights at 7 o'clock. And we'll talk about this story. There are many levels of interpretation, too much for me to include in a Sunday service. Some of it too teachy, too intellectual, and some of it too strange and far out. But we can talk about that in the study. So 7 o'clock Tuesday evenings on Zoom. The Zoom connection is on the newsletter. And there are many ways to interpret the stories, and within our tradition, we interpret it personally, the way we might interpret a dream. We identify with the elements and the activities and the characters in the story. So, here's the way it might go. There are some dark times that we're experiencing in our lives. We have questions, we have losses, we have things that go wrong. We're disturbed. Sometimes we go to sleep to what's going on. Sometimes we talk to other people about what's going on. Sometimes we're on course, sometimes we're blown all over the place. And sometimes out in the darkness, out on the edge of perception, is somehow an awareness that there's more. There's something else out there. You know, sometimes when we have spiritual experiences, it's scary. It's disturbing because it's so outside the box. Okay? So we live in a box. We live in the boat. We've created a boat, a vehicle for our consciousness that rides on the sea of everything that's going on. And when something's really different, it's disturbing. Lots of stories about angels appearing to people. And you know what the first thing an angel says whenever they appear? Almost invariably, whoa, don't be afraid, because it's disturbing. Fear not, okay? So, we can connect with that mysterious possibility that's out there beyond the normal of our lives. We can connect with that possibility, that presence and power that's in the midst of the disturbance, but then has a sense of peace. And there's part of us that's impulsive. There's part of us that says, I want to do that too. I want to get out. I'm willing to step out of this boat. I'm willing to extend myself and do something new and move out there. That's our power of faith. That's the presence of Simon Peter within us. That spiritual energy that somehow knows something without being able to explain it. And so we step out into something new, and a lot of times it doesn't quite work out the way we think it's going to work out. That we start to sink. We get knocked off course. And if we ask for help, Lord, help me, there's a response. And we can return to our ordinary life. We can return to the daily, day-to-day activities that we have, changed, renewed, inspired. And that affects everything else, everyone else in our boat. Now, there's a metaphysical interpretation, kind of. So, this story is traditionally considered the story of Jesus walking on the water. I think the remarkable thing about it is that he wasn't the only one walking on the water. Simon Peter was walking on the water too. They were both doing something remarkable. It's the story of us doing something remarkable, walking on the water, being above the fray, not being affected by the disturbance going on around us, and still being centered and poised in the mind of pure being. When I was in ministerial school, when I was in seminary, I was at a mall, and one of those kiosks in the center of the mall was, I guess, set up by some sort of evangelical Bible kind of store. And they had a bunch of pictures, prints. One of them stopped me in my tracks. It was a picture of Jesus standing, looking right at me, just standing there, standing on the water. And I had to have it. So I bought it. And this story touched me because it's like, who am I to presume to go and be a minister and tell people about their spirituality, to step out of the ordinary boat that I had been living in for so long? And the message that I kind of got was, go for it. That's a message for all of us, that we can go for it. The power of faith gets us to try it. to step out. Faith is a spiritual energy that enables us to hold certain thoughts. It might inspire us with certain thoughts, but we know that the power of thought affects our life, that the thoughts that we hold end up showing up in our lives. Well, faith is the ability to hold thoughts. We might not be able to understand it. We might not be able to explain it, but faith is something that we know. Okay? And we get distracted. We get knocked off course. And sometimes our faith has to be brought back to the right focus. And sometimes we realize, I need help. I can't do this all by myself, and so asking for help is effective. We reach out. And also, there's something else out there on the water when we reach out and we get off course. There's another part of ourselves out there mysteriously that reaches in to us, reaches out to us, and lifts us up. And so that's not some strange supernatural power out there. There might be an element of truth to that, but there's that presence and power of supernatural possibility that's within us. And when part of us gets all distracted and off course and starts to sink and says, I don't know what to do, there's a part of us that knows what to do, that reaches out to us and holds us, that embraces the immature, mistaken, lost part and says, come on, let's go this way. You have a little faith. You don't have to doubt. You have enough faith. So, what about you? Something new? Where would you step out? Where would you try stepping off the edge, out of your boat, out of the box? Might have to do with your health, your exercise program, with your weight. Might have to do with relationships, family, friends, adversaries, romance. What? Might have to do with a sense of work, being productive, having a sense of purpose and meaning in what you do. Could have to do with your checkbook or your budget. Okay? If we don't make a change, nothing's going to change. Okay? Faith is the part of us that says, all right, I'm going to go for it. That's part of it. The other part of it is that our faith has to be oriented. It needs to be focused on the goodness, focused on the possibility. Now, one of the standard traditional interpretations of this story is keep your eye on Jesus and everything will be fine. Well, you keep your faith focused on the qualities of the Christ. Keep focused on goodness and love and creativity and compassion. Scripture for today's daily word says, What does the Lord require of us? Do justice, love kindness, walk humbly with God. Kindness, justice, humility. We keep our focus there rather than on what's going wrong or what makes us look good. And remarkable, mysterious things are possible. Two people out on the water. Two people defying conventionality. Two presences and two powers. Faith and God consciousness. Christ consciousness. They're both within us. When those are paired together, look out. Things change. Things change for the better. We're going to do a meditation that is connected with stepping out to something that seems bigger than us. There are certain people in history, in community that seem exceptional. They're called saints, or masters, or rishis, mystics. We're going to take a step out of ordinary consciousness into mysticism, into the outrageous idea that we can have an experience of God, that we can connect with the presence of God within us. And we're going to do that by keeping our attention focused on the divine qualities that were revealed in the stories about Jesus and the saints and every other great spiritual leader. Those qualities are where we put our attention. So I'm going to invite you to pick a quality of God, a quality of enlightened humanity. It could be love. It could be justice, humility, kindness, oneness, order. It could be the name of a teacher or a spiritual being. But we need a place to keep our attention so we don't get distracted by what's going on around us, and we don't get distracted by what's coming into our perceptions. We don't get distracted by our thoughts. And so there's a gentle orientation toward the divine, toward holiness. And whatever else comes up, we just let it go by. We don't throw it away. We don't try to understand why that thought's come up. We just let it go and keep our eye focused on the Christ, on the love, on the oneness. So, you have a focus. It's not really a focus as much as it's just a direction in which you are oriented as you close your eyes. And recognize that there is ordinary stuff going on. But outside of the boat that you've been living in is an invitation to come up higher. And so in your own way, step out of the boat. Step into the mystical path, the path to a direct connection with pure being. Keep your eye on a quality of divine light. Keep your path oriented toward the one, toward oneness. Gently. As you keep that orientation, you are moved. You don't have to move. You are drawn into a quiet center. If you notice your thoughts distracting you, if you notice that you have gotten caught up with something, reach out for that quality of the divine. If your mind wanders off, that quality of the divine, that name, that presence, that power reaches out to you and lifts you up higher. Stay with that presence and power. Out in that mysterious, quiet place. Allow yourself to be deeply connected. Deeply connected with the presence of God that is with you now. Deeply connected with the truth of who you are. Take some time in that depth, in that connection. Take some time in the silence of pure being. In the silence. And we know when it's time to return. To return to the boat that we live in. To return to the people and responsibilities and places and events in our lives. And after spending time in the silence, deeply connected with possibility, we return renewed, changed. Amen. Amen. There's always something for us to do. What do you have scheduled for this week? Bless it. Whatever it is that you have to do, whatever it is that's on your calendar, bless it with love. And what you give of your time and your life energy makes a difference out there, around you, around us, and returns to you blessed. What you give of your talent and your time comes back to you. What you give of your treasure and your dreams is blessed and comes back to you. This is the time in the service where we bless the giving of tithes and love offerings. We bless the giving of dreams and goals and plans. Those of you watching online can support Unity Rochester's work by going to unityrochester.org and making a contribution through the website. Those of us that are here personally, there's a basket out in the lobby. We're not passing a basket, but we bless what we are, what we have, what we do, what we give, knowing that it returns to us multiplied and blessed. Divine love flowing through us blesses and multiplies all that we have, all that we give, and all that we receive, and we are grateful. And as we're talking about blessing, let's send a blessing to people that we know, people that need it, people that, whether they're willing to receive it or not, we bless them. And so we're going to say the prayer for protection, and we're going to say it for you. Okay? We're going to say it to a particular person that you know, to a group of people, or to a whole nation of people, perhaps. A whole political party. We bless them with the words of the prayer for protection. The light of God surrounds you. The love of God enfolds you. The presence of God watches over you. Wherever you are, God is, and all is well. Let there be peace, and begin with us. Peace be with you.